What's going on, guys? It's the Nightwing at Way of Life Esports coming at you guys with another League of Legends video here today. In this episode of the C9FanCast, we are going to be discussing the 2020 offseason. And all these potential rumors are going to be squashed moving in towards today, or a good amount of them, because of the free agency show that's going to be on Evil Genius's Twitch later on. And this is when the free agency open period starts. So you're going to be seeing all the rumors that were super crazy in the offseason so far for 2020 pretty much all either come true, a good amount of them will be, or a good amount are just not going to happen. Because remember, even for rumors, it's all just talking and nothing is actually inked on a contract where obviously, you know, you're set with that team. So just wanted to make sure I put that out there. Also, someone said my mic was low. Let me turn my mic up. I played it on my end for that episode. It was just fine. I talked to some people. They said it was just fine. But, you know, it's fine. Just turn the volume up. It is okay. Yeah. But what do we even start with?
Yeah, I mean, to go on that point, I usually turn him down because he's obnoxiously loud on my side. So hopefully we don't have to do that again. What do you want to start with? The most interesting one, in my opinion, right now is 100 Thieves' whole roster right now, the rumored roster.
Okay.
I think that is probably, actually, considering like the level of play everybody is able to output, I think that might be contending for a first place spot at this point. Just with everybody that's been rumored, we got Closer, we got Someday, we got who was arguably top 3 support, top 2. During the summer split, he was top 2. We got ADC as FPI, who was the best ADC. So we had the second best summer split ADC. Support. We have the first best summer split ADC. We have the Palafox is another rumored one. Again, this is all rumors still. So Huhi and Palafox are the only 2 non-confirmed ones so far. But Palafox is also shaping. He was the single best academy laning mid laner. We'll see if that actually translates. Then we got Closer in the jungler, who is arguably the best jungler in the league for both splits. And then we have Someday, who I think is still incredibly good. That is shaping up, in my opinion, to be one of the best looking rosters inside of the entire LCS.
So for me, I personally think if they can just get Huhi from Golden Guardians, I think that would make or break 100 Thieves' roster, because the way FBI and Huhi were laning together, the way they finally started playing, the way people wanted them to, did work out for Golden Guardians near the end of the LCS 2020 summer split playoffs. And I think that locking up for 100 Thieves, that bot lane would secure them at least a consistently strong part of the team. Because looking out through 100 Thieves, ever since it came into the league when franchising started in spring 2018 for the LCS, they've never really had a lot of consistent points. It's only been Someday, and then you had Meteos and Cody Sun, and then it only became Someday at a certain point because Meteos and Cody Sun fell off the face of the earth. So I'm glad they finally have another consistent point where they don't have to just consistently play around Someday.
One of my least favorite parts about 100 Thieves is actually they've really never had a secondary point of carrying potential outside of 100 Thieves, outside of Someday. They had Ryu in the mid lane for a little bit. We had who's the guy before Cody Sun? They had some before and after. I'm trying to remember their names and
Bang?
No, Bang was after.
Bang for a bit there.
Yeah, Bang was after. Bang played pretty well for the most part, so I'm not gonna really rag on him too much.
No, but if you look at 100 Thieves, ever since it came into the league in 2018, besides Someday, have they ever really had a consistent carry threat?
I mean, Bang did actually perform up to that level, but at the same time, when they got Bang, they stopped putting Someday on the kind of characters that would let him carry through the game. Considering Season 11 right now, I think that the biggest assassins of the game right now are Sejuani and Amumu, so we'll actually see if that still translates and they actually put him on tanks later on, but for the most part, I would like to see him, at the very least, put on more bruisers, because he still plays pretty well on the Jax. We've seen him carry through all that. We've seen him play well on tanks, obviously. His Nautilus was incredible when that was still meta. He's still a good player all around. Just the big problem was that they didn't actually allow the team to be played through him ever. And even if you get all these superstars on this team, or if they translate into superstars, I still think that you should make the effort to be able to play through your top laner a lot more often, because you still have that ability to. You still have a solid top laner. That's one of the biggest problems with 100 Thieves, is they really kind of define their identity around pieces that actually aren't the most significant parts of power on their team, and that's why they've never actually been a contending team. They've made it to third place through Worlds sometimes, and like wow, they underperform and get completely dumpstered by their group of IG and Fnatic. Like with all these teams.
Say this. In this last past LCS 2020 spring split, when they played against TSM, they could have beat TSM, and they looked okay in that split. I think a lot of people say they looked bad. They looked like they were getting better as things went on, but like they had Ryoma, and I think that personally Ryoma like consistently brought them down. And I know people said, you know, you got to develop talent and you got to give them time, but that's 100 Thieves' fault for throwing him into the main roster too soon. I think that, you know, that was a fault on them, but I do respect them for giving him a shot. I just think that, you know, if they want to be a strong organization in the league, you're going to have to consistently sign really strong mid laners or you're not going to be a contender. Like, the thing consistently holding them back for the LCS 2020 season for 100 Thieves' perspective is Ryoma. He consistently was just like the 8th best mid laner. So, like, how could they ever really reach anything further past, like, maybe 6th place if he's playing that bad, you know? But that's how
I do actually think that he was not the reason as to why they weren't a contender, though. I don't know. I think all around, again, like, they picked randomly terrible Like, their drafting phase was one of the worst ones out of the top teams in the LCS. Like, it was absolutely atrocious. They never picked, or they still haven't, even when Brawley was still the coach, and it's still a problem today, which kind of freaks me out. Like, what is the correlating factor? Because they replaced most of the coaching staff. Like, what is left in this team to still considerably build an identity around a carry ADC when you don't have a carry ADC anymore? Like, what is the point of that? You don't have a carry ADC on 100 Thieves anymore. Why are you still building comps designed to be able to potentially let him take over the game?
Because Cody's son likes it when they dedicate resources towards him.
He's not that good, and that's just the reality of life. He's not good enough to build a team around. He's a solid ADC. He's good at low econ. He's like, they should play around him like they do with let's think about somebody. Like they do with Huang Fong on Suning, and what they did with the Ghost when they first brought him into the league. Ghost started becoming high resources early on, but again, I think that's how they should play the game. He's not that carry potentially. He's able to be a secondary source of DPS in the later halves of the game, and he'll be a main primary source of it in the very late stages, but for the most part, he's not going to be the overall, this guy is the win con, because you really can't, like, Cody's son just genuinely isn't that good. Like
I think that he could have just basically functioned as a Nisqy that was that consistent carry.
I'm fine
not
with
like
that.
good a star. Like like that's the reason why I do like Nisqy after all these years when he was on Cloud9, because he always accepted that I was not the star, but I was able to pull, like, Nisqy always pulled his weight. He was always consistently able to consistently be good, and I think that's a portion of a thought process that a lot of people in the league don't understand. Like, you don't always have to be the star. You could be a consistent point that makes your team win. Like, throughout the years for Cloud9, you know, he wasn't always the best ADC, but at least he was consistent. You know, laning phase is kind of questionable, but, you know, at least he was consistent. Cody's son, I think he has like a weird identity crisis where like he wants to be like Uzi, but his playstyle is literally like Sneaky's. It's kind of like his, you know, that's just how I always see it. Like, he wants resources like Uzi got, like Prey got, but he's a player that's like Sneaky level, Apollo level relatively. Like, he's just a consistent player, which is good. I think consistent players don't get enough value in the league. I really do. But, you know, if you're talking about them building around the new players, which can be FBI, I think FBI is a carry player. I think they finally have that other secondary carry player. But that depends on who the support will be, because Travis leaked today that they only got closer at FBI. But what made 100 Thieves good, what made Golden Guardians good was closer, FBI, and Huhi. You need that third piece. So if 100 Thieves want to be a contender, I personally think that you need that third piece, which is Huhi, because people are just going to look at the nameplates and go, yeah, that's a great roster. Problem, FBI played really well, also in part because of Huhi. Like, it's a duo thing. And I think people are going to look at, you know, that and go, you're wrong. You know what you're talking about? Well, they didn't really become... FBI wasn't like standout before he got Huhi, and also vice versa. So I think that if they want to be that third place roster, or potentially fourth and maybe higher, they're gonna need Huhi. They have to lock down Huhi. Otherwise, FBI has to basically play with the new support. And that's also going to be a problem when you're talking about building synergy. Closer, FBI, and Huhi already have it. Not having that third piece would be pretty bad. Now, in terms of Someday, it's hard to say. He's consistently been like, what, top 3, top laner in the league since he came into it?
Honestly, for the most part, we've seen him in top 1. We've seen him kind of go
People
around from
wanted
top
him
1
in
to top
first
3.
place.
He should have been in first place, like,
in
regardless.
we had him at first place in spring.
Like, regardless of whether or not Licorice dumpstered him in the playoffs, which it didn't really, I wouldn't
so
say
ironic.
dumpster. It wasn't dumpster, but like...
People said Someday should have been it, and Licorice just torched him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did get the winning matchups, to be fair, but at the same time, Licorice played really well into him, and I think that's always been the case since he joined the league. But what I will say is that it is still a regular season award, and Licorice was never the carry point of the C9 roster.
Yeah.
It was just never a fact, and that's just a good enough reason not to be able to put him on there. But I will say, with the rumors of Someday getting his green card, they will have a slot for an import slot left on.
That's
even
good.
If they don't pick up, they could either pick up... I would prefer if they picked up Palafox because I'd like to see him on a roster. But again, I would see a reason as to why you wouldn't want to put academy player on a roster that looks like it can easily contend with the pieces it already has. Like, I could see why they wouldn't want to do it, and then maybe they import a mid laner and let Palafox go to a different team. And then pick up Huhi regardless, or maybe they pick up a Korean support like a Kure.
This might be a budget reason, because remember, EG said today when we get to that one, EG announced basically through like Esports Manicals, who broke the news about a lot of things recently. Even last year, they've been always breaking news. It's just people just finally noticed them from last year. They broke the news that, that's the next point, which Ignar is going to Evil Geniuses, but Zeyzal is going to be out of EG. So what if Hunter Thieves picks up Zeyzal?
They would be terrible.
I think he's not.
He's literally really that bad. He's really not good at carry. I mean, he's not good at enchanter supports. He's really not that good on engage supports. Like, what does he shine on? He's not even average on most of the Not even. He's not even that good at him. Like, he literally is not. There's no reason to pick up Zeyzal when there's so many better options on the table, and Huhi and importing a Korean support if Someday gets his green card, because again it's looking more and more likely that he will actually get his green card, because again he's been playing for what, 5 years almost now. Actually, not even almost. It's been 5 years now that he's been playing Indiana, the LCS now. Like Someday's been playing since season 6.
Season 6. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he started on
season 11 now.
Yeah, you're right.
That's 5 seasons. That's 5 years. He's been here for a long time. And at this point in time, I'd like to see a better showing from just, like, the pieces put around him. And on top of the fact, I'd like to see him not be an import anymore, because he's pretty much an LCS player at this point. Like, I'd like to see a lot more, like, efforts going into building this team up, like, as a whole. Like, even if a lot of people want to see Palafox shine, like, you taking a chance on a new mid laner can have really good payout. But at the same time... But
that's why you have Closer, though. Closer can shore up the weaknesses for Palafox, because with Demonte too.
That's not a good enough reason to pick him up, though. Even if he does, there's no reason he should have to do that. If you're building a team that's already built to contend with 3 pieces you have, all of them were like arguably the best in their positions right now, and you're getting maybe a support that is a top 3, top 2. Like, why would I can see a reason why you'd want to import instead of using Palafox, because you don't take a chance on like native born mid laners unless you have a team that is like essentially worthless, like Immortals. There's really no reason why they wouldn't pick up a Palafox if they had the chance, because essentially you have a player, you have no positive to this team, but if you get a really good mid laner out of this guy, you have a good piece to build around. Around 100 Thieves, if Palafox doesn't pan out, you've wasted a roster, and you literally have to go around looking for a new mid laner now. You have 100% wasted a roster.
I wouldn't say you wasted a roster, because you got to kind of factor in, that's why veterans are there, though. The reason why Ryoma didn't work out is why people are bringing that up, because Ryoma just, in general, he was one of the not good Oceanic players, though. I feel like if Ryoma had been good, people would look at it differently, though.
So how is it not wasted if he doesn't pan out? How is this extremely superstar team not wasted?
Because there's no spring split technically. There's a spring, but it's not a split. So to be fair, he could improve during the season. He could also
not. He could also
mesh really well with Closer.
He could also not.
I mean, there's no way to really ever know
that. There isn't, but I'm saying if he doesn't pan out, because that is a very, very like hit or miss thing with these new mid laners. And I'd
Then
love to
what do
see
you want to
Palafox
do?
on a
You
team.
want to never take a chance on someone new because they
You
might
don't.
fail.
Okay, let's think about this. You know, when you're building a contending team in any sport ever, you trade away your draft picks because even if they have extremely good potential, they are worthless as of now because they have to develop. That's the big thing about why you don't do that. You trade them for better players. This the same thing I think correlates into this kind of situation is Palafox is an extremely good player. I still think he looked really good and I think he has potential, but if he doesn't pan out in the first year, you might not have this either potential of this
No,
team
but
that
what I'm saying is your logic is if why take a risk at all when you could have something that's
you don't, okay, you've already got three pieces. You don't
yeah.
have to take this risk. It's unnecessary. You have to take this risk if you're a terrible team. You have to take the risk on a good player. Like I think just if he pans out because you have nothing else to build around. There's no reason not to try and develop talent. But when you're a good team and you might have an import slot left, there's literally a good like again, I think they're probably going to get Palafox because he's shown a lot of good tendencies, but who knows if he actually pans out?
Other rosters with imports have shown us that if your native talent is good, the imports will just kind of fill in. And to be fair, someday could count still as an import and slash a North American
I'm not saying
player.
he's not gonna count as an import. If he gets a green card, he's not an import anymore. That's the only thing that it takes. Literally,
that's why I brought up like CLG, Dig, and IMT could be the teams where like if people that wanted to have it's hard to say. So like teams like CLG, IMT, and Dig should be the orgs where like players that people want to have teams go to, not necessarily develop. We see how they will pan out on a roster and see if they can be the shining point of a roster. Then they get picked up by bigger teams. That's why I think that teams like CLG, Immortals, and Dig have a place in the league where they can be that shining portion for players that people think should be good. They go, and if they're the absolute shining part about the team, they get picked up by a bigger LCS org. But the issue here with that poses into they also don't want to be losing either. So you're also in this weird domino effect of you could take a risk on Palafox or you could just import. Now, that goes with two different things. You could get backlash from the fans saying, oh, you're not developing talent.
who cares about what the fans say? Literally doesn't actually amount to anything. Literally, as much as I like Palafox and as much as I think he has potential, there's absolutely, if someday is an import and he doesn't get his green card this year, they're going to get Palafox. That's the only option because there's really no native mid laners to pick up.
If they get Huhi, then you have 4 really solid players. I think taking a risk on Palafox wouldn't be that bad. Because
there's no if you have 4 good players and you take a risk, you don't take a risk with an already developed play. You build.
That's the reason why I wouldn't take a risk on the mid laner though. I would take a risk on like a support.
I would never take a risk on like if you already have 4 extremely good players and you build somebody who doesn't play well, you've ruined a roster. And there's nothing you could do to salvage it at this point because honestly, at this point in time, you have a lot of egos getting kind of collapsed on at this point in time with all these good players playing poorly. And that could essentially ruin a roster in the span of a few weeks. Like, that's why you don't build rosters with bad players. And that's why it's necessary to try and build as many good players as you can, or at the very least, if they're bad, make them into either a position that doesn't matter, which support is arguably the most important role in the game right now. It was the most important, or second most important last season. It's more important than ADC by far, and top lane. Like, next season, we're going to see whether or not it is still one of the most important roles, because that is just the state of which it's at. Their free ability to roam around the map has been, like, kind of making them a big portion of, like, what should be the good players on this team. Like, mid lane is obviously still a good portion of, the necessary things, but, like, at the same time, I don't see a reason to take, like, again, I can see a reason as to why they wouldn't take a risk on Palafox if they have a chance not to. Like, they wouldn't pick up Demonte in comparison to him, but at the same time, if they have an import slot, there's really no reason they should get any negative, recoil from that, because it's not their job to develop talent when they already have a team that doesn't need a development system in it.
Wait, didn't Palafox play on Golden Guardians Academy roster with Huhi before? Palafox was on Golden Guardians Academy roster at one point. So if you're already kind of factoring in, that's also good synergy too between your mid laner and your support.
No.
I personally would say it's not the worst thing to get him.
It's
but the
not
issue
the worst.
No, but it's like 50-50 though. That's the problem. It's literally 50-50. Either he works out or he doesn't. But to be fair, you also have the entire season to see if it works out.
You know what? It is a one season now, right?
Yeah.
If you lose games, it's a lot more negative to the rest of the season. Like you could literally
You have
lose.
4 other really solid pieces though. They could literally do what they've been doing.
What if he
playing
never
this
becomes
second.
good? They'll never be able to contend. Like,
I mean,
if he never becomes a good player, they can't contend anymore. And a lot of these people that you picked up as a superstar team are going to get a lot of negative criticisms coming their way because they didn't perform up to standard.
what would you do?
What would I do? I mean, let's look at it like this. If we have an import, I would import somebody. If we don't have an import, I would keep Halifax because there's really no better options. Like, you can't really use anybody else like you have.
Also, you're factoring in like COVID situation too right now. That's the issue too.
What do you mean?
Like, they might not be able to get somebody from overseas.
They'll come over with the amount of money. I don't get why everybody's over exaggerating on that aspect because that is not a possibility. No one, I don't think that's ever gonna like really stop any of the top tier mid laners coming.
But the next thing is I forgot about this one. Hylissang extends his contract with Fnatic for 2021.
Doesn't really change anything for Fnatic then, does it? I mean,
I don't know because like there was a couple of comments criticizing like my opinion of Hylissang. Like I said this before, guys. I don't think Hylissang's bad. I think he gets a lot of undeserved criticism. But this is what I said, and I know what I said. I'm paraphrasing because I did make this video like about a day ago when you guys are watching this one. I said Fnatic's main priority should not be Hylissang. That's not saying I'm saying he sucks. I'm saying that in terms of EU's always known as building up talents, and they have great secondary leagues like the EU Masters and the LDL. Why is your first idea to sign Hylissang? I know he performed really well at the 2020 World Championship. I know, but that's just the 2020 World Championship. What about the LEC 2020 Spring Split and the 2020 LEC Summer Split, where he was absolutely just, when he would play engaged supports, he was just actually running it down. I'm just saying that in the offseason, it looked like Fnatic were rushing to sign Hylissang because they probably wanted to lock down Reckless. I just don't think throughout all the supports they have in EU and even in the secondary leagues, you would just rush to sign Hylissang.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
Hylissang is when he's.
I think Vander was also really good.
Vander's not nearly as good as Hylissang. I mean, the reason it doesn't matter. Good. Consistency doesn't win you. They're competing for a world championship, and you need somebody who has.
Rush to sign Hylissang after all these players they have.
Actually, I mean, just think about this. You cannot win world championships without somebody like a support that plays with the highs of Hylissang. And if you think about it like this. The reason they were even able, like, every single, world championships, he performs well. In the playoffs, he starts performing well. It's really only the regular season that I think he underperforms. Like, when he gets in high-pressure situations, I rarely see him underperform to a very drastic extent. I think that's
I'm not saying he's, like, bad. I just think, like...
Yeah, but I think you're really underselling him now, because he is actually, when he's playing well, is arguably one of the best supports in the world.
Argument you gave me a while ago, like this 50-50 thing.
No. But like the thing about it is,
when he wasn't playing well, it looked really, really bad.
Yeah, but he only underperforms in the regular season, which is really the only aspect of it that doesn't matter. Like
at some point, that's gonna catch up to you, and you're just bad at some point.
I don't know if it ever does, because as long as he performs, like there's a lot of players that are actually kind of like, if we look at Jock Peterson on the Dodgers, they don't actually play him in the regular season as often because he's really underperforms against a lot of like different versions, like pitchers. But when we get to the postseason, he always bats at like over a 300 average, and he's one of the best players in the league. Like he's never let go from the roster because of the fact that he performs so well. Like in specifically the postseason. That's one thing I think is a good reason to keep Hylissang, is because you honestly are not going to find anybody that is as good as Hylissang when he's playing well in the EU scene.
The top 3 supports in EU are what? Mickey X, Hylissang, Vander.
I think Hylissang is... Vander's not as good as the top 2, clearly. I think the top 2 are very far and away better than him. And I think that, honestly, even taking a chance, getting rid of what I would say is a top 1, top 2 support in the league, on a chance that he might... that you are not only just getting rid of him, you're having to take the chance that not only is he consistent, but he's consistently the best support in the EU. And you're not going to get that. The likelihood of that is like 1%. There's no reason to take that chance when you get a Hylissang who, when he plays well, is going.
He shouldn't have been the priority.
Like, the priority should be
locking down Selfmade, locking down. They apparently like Whipple. Well,
Whipple's not.
Well, they weren't trying to lock down Whipple. They're trying to get Alfari. So that's.
Buffalo's not nearly as good as what's it called? I think the top two signings, obviously, Reckless is still signed through this year, I believe. So I think
No, he's a free agent tomorrow. That's the big thing. There's rumors that Reckless looking at other teams now that G2 has an ADC.
I do want to point out, I don't know. We don't even know. We don't even know if they didn't even attempt to sign all these players first. We just know based off what we've seen is the fact that he was willing to sign already. We don't even honestly the fact that Reckless was they probably already talked to Reckless. They probably already talked to Alphari, all these players.
Imagine this. Imagine G2 with Reckless. If that's not the best team in the league.
It's
Wonder, Cap, Reckless, and
Wonder why it's not the best team in the league? Because
you swap out Perkz with a
they're going to mentally implode on themselves.
Gonna mentally implode.
They are. It's just a really
no. If I was Caps, I wouldn't ask to play with Reckless because of of things he said on stream before about playing off Fnatic. I would say get upset. That's what I would say.
I mean, player-wise, I think that G2 would be by far and away the best team inside of EU if they had Reckless. But at the same time, they would also have a lot of
personality clashes.
A lot of personality clashes, and that's just what it is. I mean, it's going to be a big problem with this team if they pick up Reckless. But at the same time, maybe if it pans out, you have an incredibly good team who can compete for world championships.
You could just get that same thing with Upset though.
Upset's I don't think Upset. Again, Upset is really good in my opinion. I think he actually just ADC wise, he's comparable to anybody inside of the West.
If you're a G2, I would grab either Upset, can't get him. See if Hansama's contract is up. See if you can get him. Patrick.
I think the top two would be Upset and Reckless, and then it goes Hansama, then it goes Patrick. And honestly, maybe even Kabe at this point.
Crown Shot's very underrated.
Crown Shot would be another one I would consider. There's really good ADCs in the EU scene, so there's really nowhere you could go wrong as long as you pick one up.
But that's the thing, though, about G2 with the 2020 offseason, because moving into 2021, they could literally get any ADC beside Perkz and have a completely better roster. There's no wrong answer. Because you're still going to get a good ADC, though.
I think all around they're going to be a better team.
Your ceiling is higher, I think, with Upset and Reckless. That's what I think.
I think those are the top two picks, obviously. I think
me personally, I would just go with Upset because Reckless has stayed with Fnatic, all his career. So the likely change. I know, but that's one time though. The Alliance thing, he literally came back the next split though. To be fair, players like Reckless, players like Perkz, players like Faker, they consistently just sign with one team.
I'm just saying that's not a good enough reason not to pick somebody up.
I know, but there's so many years of history where he just wants to play with that team, which makes sense to him.
We'll see if he even wants to play with them anymore. Maybe he does want to.
That's why he started signing 1-year contracts, because I remember before he would always sign 2-year contracts throughout. I think it was in the 2017 Worlds. He started signing 1-year contracts with Fnatic, because he said TSM made him an offer in the 2017 offseason when TSM wanted to get Sven and Mithy. So I personally think I like G2. I think that they'd be better with Upset. I think he has a lot more carry potential than Reckless does. I think Reckless has metas on ADCs where he's really passive and he just doesn't really be that aggressive, and he's not really ever it's not that he's not good. It's he's never exactly trying to push the pace of the game. I've seen in the other.
You can't push it. You can't push the pace of the game in the ADC. That's just the reality of how the game works. There's nothing, especially with what was last season, utility ADCs only. What can you actually even do? You have CC, but you don't have the innate damage that an ADC brings.
Hey, you saw Ghost and Huanfeng putting out pretty good damage there.
Yes, but they also didn't push the pace of the game. I'm just saying. Also, Reckless averaged more than both of them in terms of DPS during the group stages. If we're gonna actually start talking like that,
Hey, and that means Reckless is. Hey, that means him on G2 is making me feel even better. But no, as you guys know, it's hard to say because Carlos finally talked about the whole Perkz situation. So here, let me go bring it up right now because I know people kept saying, "Oh, Carlos." He didn't really have a wrong decision there. Caps is a great mid laner. We know Perkz is a good mid laner. It's no real wrong decision. It's just what does Perkz want to do? Because people always say Perkz and Ocelot had a good relationship. Let's be honest here. Outside of YouTube content, we don't really know that. I don't like making baseless claims where people say they've had a good relationship, this, and this. We don't know that. You literally don't know that because you have all these stories coming out about teams that are on with like certain players where the narrative was, yeah, they like being there, and turned out they hated it there. But I'm not saying he did. It's just like people made it seem like the relationship was all like rainbows and sunshines when it might have not been, not, you know. But Ocelot basically says, you know, basically Perkz wanted to, okay, right here. Well, Perkz says, Carlos is indeed one of my best friends I've made, and he is one of the few people closest to me for many years. He protected, he helped me and taught me many things, and his wife and son are super kind to me as well. I don't think I had to explain all of this on the internet, but that's 2020, I guess. Thank you.
I do want to point out that he never actually really made a complete effort to say that he wasn't angry at Ocelot. I do want to say that was definitely the case.
That's what he recently tweeted. The first part of it was, hate has to stop. There's already too much in the world. Not everything is black and white, and not everything will ever be known to the public, which is the reality of it. Having said that, I'm super grateful for everything we've built in G2, and I couldn't have been more lucky. And by hate, I mean towards Carlos, G2, or myself in that matter. And then Ocelot went under his tweet and says, you are the biggest legend that's played for this organization in 6 years, and your legacy has gotten us where we are today. It hurts to see you go, and while I would have loved to keep while I would have loved to keep this exact same lineup for years, we respect your decision to move on for new challenges.
I just want to say, it really doesn't seem like he's making an effort to say that Ocelot did nothing. It does actually seem like he's just saying it's not any of your business.
There's people that are the biggest criticism. The biggest criticism is that Ocelot only did it for money, which is what one person had said.
He's allowed to. It's $5 million.
Just shy of 5 billion, so it could be like, you know,
it's like $5 million. Like
$1 million. That sets up his kid. That
over here, these guys
the
struggling, trying to eat chicken McNuggets, trying to stay like not starve to death during the normal parts of the week. Like, why is this guy? Why I would never trade him for $5 million. Like, that's ridiculous. It is a normal thing to trade somebody for money, especially when it's that large amount. And on top of the fact, when there's not as much profit inside of the scene as most people would expect, $5 million is a lot to like kind of take. And honestly, there's really nothing.
People got mad because it was the money thing, and Perkz wasn't allowed to talk to Fnatic or some shit like that. I don't know how that went down.
So let's look about it right now. I think that the biggest reason as to why he didn't let them, because he didn't want a contender inside of EU to be able to compete and keep him outside. Because if there's like a new team that kind of pops off.
Smart though. That's a smart competitor.
I think it is, but at the same time,
if you want to keep winning, you don't let them have your best player though. That's
on top of it. Let's think about if you lower the competition inside of your region, as we saw with Cloud9, you eventually stagnate and become worse than them. And that's something that could also happen if the competition doesn't.
I think it only happened in NA because NA is just not good.
Yes, but
I think that's more of an NA problem. Though.
Yeah, I mean EU wasn't that good. EU had two solid teams when. G2
but that's the thing though. People always claim how like we can see it. We watch EU for years. We've seen how many good players they have. Like
they have a lot of good players.
There's more likely chances they can get another Caps or another Perkz than we are in LCS.
I'm just saying the reality of it is the fact that these teams, if we look at when Fnatic and G2 both underperformed, we had two teams at the top who genuinely didn't deserve to be there. I mean, obviously there was a lot of moderately clean plays outside of Mad Lions, but they genuinely were only at the top of the league because of massive underperformances on both of the top team sides. Like, there's genuinely there's only two good, there's top heavy in EU. There's only two good teams in EU, and that's just the reality of how the team works.
Even before, like, Perkz or Caps ever came into the league, Fnatic were always contending for, like, winning the EU championship or always being in the, like, top two.
I don't see, does that really change anything? That doesn't change anything. That doesn't mean that there's competition now. If you lower everybody else in the league, if you kind of kick them out, like if you kind of like level them up, it would make sense. But it's not like EU is producing 10 good teams like the LCK or LPL. They're not. They have
no.
What? The LCS doesn't. We're not. Why are you comparing them to the LCS like that fixes anything? You're not just saying. You're not addressing the main problem.
They consistently have two teams making it top 8, top 4.
What does that have to do with the LCS? LCS doesn't matter in this conversation.
What I'm trying to say is that even before Perkz and Caps came in, they were always doing that.
They always only had one team that was actually pretty decent. Actually, they really never had a team that was competing. During the season 3 through season 7, they genuinely were never competing for a world championship. They were competing to maybe take games off.
I'm talking about specifically in EU. Fnatic have always been a top a top organization all the time. I don't think
yeah, but now you're saying it was top heavy as there was only one good team.
No,
Now there's two good teams. Now there's two good teams.
It's still debatable. They relatively have two good teams. What I'm saying is that for Fnatic specifically, just because Carlos didn't let them talk to Perkz, it doesn't matter. They always find a way.
So you try what they didn't find a way last season. They got Nemesis, who underperformed drastically for 2 straight years. I could bring up a mess. He was okay in 2019. He was okay. That doesn't mean good.
They still made second place twice. No, sorry, second place in the summer. They got third in the spring.
I'm just pointing out right now that we're over exaggerating how good EU. Like EU is better than NA, but NA is not the competing point. We don't look at NA and say at least they're better than NA because that's not a barrier. That's not the bar you should be meeting. EU. No, you're saying all the same stuff. What I'm saying is EU is genuinely not producing more than 2 good teams at a time, and that's just the reality.
But they're producing good players, and eventually those players could end up on those 2 good teams.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't even fix what I'm saying. Like that generally it doesn't. Instantaneously, you don't have good competition because you have good players in the league. That doesn't make good teams. That just makes good players.
That goes with the process of building with time. You're not gonna have instant. I mean, people
want
instant.
Literally doesn't. You're still not addressing my problem with this. I'm saying this wasn't even something that I really had a problem with. I'm saying one negative to this could be the fact that there's no competition in EU because now there's not 2 competent teams. It's just G2. You don't, just because you have good players inside of the league doesn't make them good. Doesn't make the teams good they're on. Because you could have 5 superstars on a team and still have bad teams because you don't have developed teams. Fnatic is...
If you have a likely chance if you have good players at some point...
You still not addressed my question.
These 2 other orgs, eventually these other orgs...
Yeah, but you need this next year. You need this now. You need good teams to compete against now or you don't become good. And that is just how it's going to work. You don't want to eventually they become good because this entire year that you didn't have good competition... You've been playing against trash players. Like, Unicorns of Love didn't really get any better. They stagnated because they played against terrible teams and dominated them throughout the entire year. The second place team didn't lose any games to anybody besides Unicorns of Love, and Unicorns of Love just completely dumpstered them. Like, it's just, you have to have good competition inside of a league to be able to be good. And that is just how it's going to have to work. You don't get to...
even last split, which was the LEC spring summer 2020 split. Yeah, wait. We literally had Mad Lions and Rogue at the top.
We didn't have them top 2. We had G2 and Fnatic both top 2 by far.
Mad and Rogue were at the top in the standings when they were playing.
I had Mad Lions at 3. You had them at 5.
No. I'm talking like actually during this, but I'm not talking about the pre.
No. We're talking about this. They 100% underperformed in the regular season. That's just why I actually brought this up. When G2 and Fnatic underperformed, 2 teams that I think genuinely didn't deserve to be there dominated the rest of the league because they're so much better. It was the top 2 teams who were better than everybody, and then it was these 2 teams are even better than everybody else.
It was like Origin was like consistently third for like
it's just there was genuinely a lot of good players inside of EU, and no one denies that. But how many good teams are there? And it's just
not about the team,
it is about the teams. That's how you get good.
Piecing together a roster.
I don't care about developing. We're talking about competition-wise.
That's why you have those other bad teams to do that for. Then you just take the better player.
What does that have to do with? You didn't even address. I still not address it. What I'm saying is they need competition to grow as a team. Even if they're developing talent, they have all these players that make sense. If they're not playing well as a team, they don't matter. They're not making you better. There's no team. G2 didn't have that. Like they had that with Fnatic last year. G2 played well against Mad Lions, who honestly elevated their play because they played so fast-paced. I'll agree with that. But for the most part, there really wasn't too many good teams inside of the league. Those top 2 teams genuinely weren't that impressive. And I said that throughout the entirety of the year. I was like, they're only at the top because Fnatic and G2 are underperforming. They're just not as good as them. And that is just how it is. Like, G2, EU produces 6 million times better players than NA, and that's a reality. But that's not who you're competing against. You're competing against LCK, who produces even better players than you, and the LPL, who produces even better players than you too. It's not about the level of players, because LCK and LPL all have good teams too. Like, we could say that I think that Dragon X honestly would have beat Fnatic, and I think they would have taken G2 to at least 5 games at the very least too. But they had to face against Damwon. There's a lot of good teams inside of the LCK. And honestly, into the top 5, I think all of them can compete somewhat on the World Championship stage. But, Mad Lions couldn't do it. Rogue couldn't do it. Honestly, if we throw the 5th place EU team in there, they couldn't do it either. You have 2 teams who could genuinely compete. and then everybody else is trash. And even if they all have solid talent on that team, it's not denying that. I don't hate EU. I mean, EU is arguably like one of the best producing talents teams in the inside like the entire world. They produce a lot of talent, and on top of the fact they're the fastest adapting to the meta. But if you make Fnatic worse as a whole by not giving them Perkz, which is fine if you want to win the region, maybe they actually, you guys, there's a new team that comes out, like 1 to 2 new teams that come out and just perform somewhere, they're better than both of you.
Your biggest competition is Fnatic, and you don't let them have Perkz. EU has other good mid laners too, though, that can make Fnatic even better.
Like who?
Larson, Humanoid.
Just not that good. They're not that good.
Zazie wasn't that bad himself.
Zazie was not that good. I don't want to give him that much credit. Zazie, it's Humanoid and Larson.
Zazie was pretty solid.
Solid is not good.
A rookie.
Solid.
That's fine. Solid is something you can build up for his first year.
Yes, they're not looking for the first year. They're looking for now wins, and they have. This is all what I'm trying to say. This is not development.
I don't know about them not being that good. I'm not saying Larson and Humanoid aren't that good. I'm saying
I said Larson and Humanoid are good. They're not on the level of
not having Perkz. They could just have Larson or Humanoid.
It's a very big step down from Perkz, and that's just what I'm saying.
No, but you're taking a step down from Nemesis if you're looking at it from Fnatic's point of view, because you had Nemesis and you're getting Humanoid or Larson. That's actually an upgrade.
Now I'm not Nisqy, okay.
Which is probably a side grade.
I don't understand. Like, again, at this point in time, it's obvious they maybe they want to win EU, and maybe there's a chance that another team comes in. Yeah, I don't care about that, but I'm saying their entire goal is to win Worlds, and that's what they're actually going for. That's why they got rid of Perkz, is because they want to win now, because they could continually keep winning EU for quite some time with Perkz. They replace Perkz because they want to win Worlds. You don't win Worlds if you don't have good competition. Honestly, if Larson upgrades them or anything, it's fine. But I don't know how much it's going to be a less of an upgrade than Perkz would have been. And that's just what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, because Perkz brings the leadership. That's the thing.
You need a team. You're not trying to compete against Fnatic. You're not just trying to compete against Fnatic for EU Championship. You're trying to compete against Damwon for Worlds. But if you have teams the caliber of Mad Lions filling out the entire thing, or like a bunch of Astralises and then like a Mad Lion here and there, you're not going to be that. You're not going to get better. Like, you have to have genuinely good competition. And that's just...
I feel bad generally for Perkz, because like this is what Caps went through when he left Fnatic and went to G2. Like guys, these people, like, listen to me. If anybody does listen, so it stops you from spreading hate because you're actually being morons. People have free will. He can also choose himself to leave. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't exist, though.
We don't know if he left or not. I mean, honestly, it's said on their end, but I do actually think there was some inner turmoil between him and Ocelot. I do think that was actually a problem. I think they're like the fact that he didn't.
Perkz brought this on himself. Perkz wanted to bring over Caps because he felt like it would give him a better shot at winning Worlds.
No. We don't know what the actual problem is. We don't know if it's because of Caps.
Initially, when they brought him over...
Yeah, but we don't know if that's the actual problem. We don't know. It's not because they want to get rid of him. I think there was an actual...
I'm just saying, like, bringing Caps in, it was eventually going to lead to that. People, like, these were problems that people had already.
I don't even know if that's, like, the actual problem. Like, literally, the big thing is...
No. I'm talking about the Caps mid-laning point. G2 knew bringing over Caps, eventually it would lead to something like this, where you would have to choose between both of them.
Well, they didn't choose. I think, like, again, we don't know if they chose. We don't know. That's why I'm saying... This doesn't really... I think there was genuinely some backlash against Carlos and Perkz. I think that's actually what happened. The reason that he said it's not black and white and the public will never know is because he's saying there is actually problems between us, but we don't want you... We're not going to tell you guys about it because it's not your business.
No, I understand that. What I'm talking about is when G2 initially brought over Caps, eventually this is going to get brought up.
We don't even know if that's why he's leaving. You're just... You're making... You're trying...
The Caps point is, like, G2's done now with, like... Worlds, right? So you factor in this. Caps came over to obviously win with G2, but Perkz is also a mid laner. So at some point, it was going to be a problem.
See, the problem is that is genuinely not even known if that's the problem. That's why I keep saying this, that's not a reason to keep saying that. We don't know if that's the reason he's leaving. We don't know anything about that. That's just a hypothetical. I'm saying he's probably... the only thing we can confirm is there are problems based off what they're saying, there's problems between Carlos and Perkz.
What do you think about that wolf and sheep story Perkz gave? I was genuinely confused. I thought he was talking about Kindred's backstory. Let
me see it again. Can you link it to me or something?
Oh, I'll have to link it to you on here. I watched it on YouTube last night. Someone sent me a clip of it. I was like, what the hell is he talking about? Let me get it for you right now. Let me go to my history really quickly. But if you guys enjoy this kind of content, you better hit subscribe. We debate like this all the time. So it's like, I think some people like are arguing. No, I literally wrecked this guy.
It's technically. Shut up.
I'm just kidding. I have to wreck this guy on some arguments sometimes. But no. Like the basis problem of bringing over caps led to this. Eventually, I'm talking about the
we don't know if it did. I'm just saying.
What I'm saying is like bringing 2 mid laners. Of like.
No, I see what you're saying, but you're saying you know what the problem is, and I'm saying.
No. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but like, what if it has nothing to do with that, and they wanted to keep caps, and he's like, they got in a fist fight when they were drunk, and that's what actually brought him to leave. I'm saying literally, it could just be without a doubt not relating to caps at all. We don't know. That's why I'm saying.
Oh, let me link you. It's right here. But I mean, to be fair, does Ocelot really like? He doesn't really like people factor in this. People feel like he's lost. Not really. He still has the best mid laner in EU. That's the. And if when they let Perkz go, which they are, they get a better ADC. I'm still not putting them outside of first place, even when we do the power rankings for LAC in the for 2021. Why would I put them out of first place? They literally would get a better player by default when Perkz leaves. Carl's a genius. I love that guy. Oh my lord. Oh lord. Yeah, it's actually a 14-minute story. No, sorry, it's not 14 minutes. It's about like 6 minutes about wolf and sheep. I honestly genuinely thought he was talking about Kindred's backstory because Kindred is a wolf and a sheep. There we go.
It's wolf in sheep's clothing, most likely, is what you're talking about. Somebody who gives off the impression of being like nice and all that stuff, but is actually extremely aggressive. It's like it's all about a facade that people put on as
also, what if Perkz just wanted to change teams?
It's possible. I'm saying there's no possibilities, but I do think it all correlates to the fact that based off the things that he's said recently, he is actually having some sort of inner turmoil with Carlos, and that's something that is not going to ever be known to us. Like that's just the reality of it.
Remember that press conference they had after they lost to Damwon? How like everyone was like sad and Perkz just laughing. Maybe that could have been there something too. You know, maybe he didn't see Perkz as like taking it serious. But yeah, people have factors in. Like the man lost his parent. Like he's not gonna be like himself. You know, I know exactly. How
this is to be fair. It seems more like he's trying to be the old Perkz as much as he can. I mean, when he's always been this person. When they lose, he tries to laugh it off and all that stuff. But a lot of people aren't built like that. I mean, I'm not built like that. When I lose, I'm a little bit bitter.
I laugh. I laugh at it. It's like, you know, you got destroyed. Just come back stronger. That's how I see things. But
it's just like
what's the thing? Ignar going to Evil Geniuses.
Ignar going to Evil Geniuses does not make them a contending team because there's just 3 better teams than them. I think Ignar is going there for the money at this point. They still might be a solid team, but they're not going to be that good. They're not going to be.
Went to TSM. Why didn't he go to TSM? God.
They're just not going to be as good as the teams that they're going to have to compete against. Where's Johnson going? That's the one I want to know.
Johnson is rumored to go to EG as well.
Oh God.
Or it depends on how the domino effect works about who picks where. So the players that they are potentially signing, if they pick a certain place, then they would probably have to sign somebody else. Because I think if they can't get Johnson out of his contract with Dignitas, they would get they would try to get Lost. The other horrible rumor I heard was like Huni ADC. I was like, okay, you're really not trying to win if you're doing that. That's actually atrocious.
We don't know if it would be bad. I just assumed somebody who doesn't know how to position as a top laner who definitely couldn't do it in the position that needs you to position well.
So their ADC potentially could be Lost or Johnson. I think Ignar is an upgrade over Zeyzal. That's cool. I think that's good.
Zeyzal's a downgrade over everybody, so that's probably why. I've always hated Zeyzal though.
But they could also have Evil Geniuses could be potentially getting Nemesis.
That wouldn't make them okay. So they'd have Ignar, they'd have Johnson maybe, they'd have Nemesis, they'd have Svenskeren in the jungle, and then top lane would be
Impact potentially if Licorice signs.
That would be a solid right out of Worlds team. Right there.
That's like a solid 4th place team, essentially.
Right out of Worlds, which means that all this money you've invested is not going to get you into Worlds.
Oh, I love this place, man. It's like Jersey Shore when they throw money around. Holy crap. No, but when people said that Carlos only did it for money, it's guys, it's literally just a bunch of broke people complaining. Imagine a bunch of broke people complaining what
He's allowed to do it for just money. I would have no problem if he came out and said, "Yep, I did it just for the money." And
$5 million. You know how much that sets up your? He has a kid. That sets up that his kid's college is paid for.
I would literally sell you for $5 million to another person. I would, as a human being, if they're like, man, I'll give you $5 million for this person, I'm going to like do like I don't know. I wouldn't matter to me. I would sell you for $5 million. $5 million is a lot of money. Like that is a lot of money to put on the table.
And you know Cloud9 want to win the LCS at the end of summer and go to MSI if they're spending $5 million on a roster. Like, it should go without saying that Cloud9 want to win. Like, the issue with Cloud9 even having Perkz, someone said Perkz to C9 hot take is about it. What? No. They obviously know it's a good idea if you're grabbing Perkz because why spend $5 million on him? But that's neither here nor there. The problem with Cloud9, I really have right now, looking at the roster, it's kind of just Blabber. I think Fudge will actually be pretty good. My issue is Blabber because people have this weird high praise for him, and I'm like, where does this come from?
He's not versatile. The only way he knows how to play the game is through carry junglers, and he's not. He's
very meta dependent. He's very meta dependent in terms of like the certain picks he's able to shine off of. I personally think they shined because of Vulcan and Nisqy, and Zen also as well. I don't know. I think Fudge will be pretty good. Like I think he'll be pretty good. But the problem is like Blabber is the only issue. Like if you factor in if we get Fudge like he was in the academy for 2020, that's a pretty solid top. That's like arguably it's hard to really put a number out there.
He'd be in the top 5.
Yeah, top 4, top 5. That's good. And that's good because
I think he'd be worse. I think he'd be worse than Licorice was instantaneously the best top laner in the league. But
you also have Liquor someday. Broken Blade, it's still
better than him. He's better than him. So that's...
And you also kind of factor in that's arguably you're putting him at 4th, but we don't know where Broken Blade's going though. That's the other big problem too.
I keep forgetting about that. I heard he was going to EU. Yeah, that would be a big.
Yeah,
thing.
He's going to Schalke. Woo, that'd be crazy.
Schalke would still be trash.
Someone said, "Yeah, Schalke could develop Broken Blade. Yeah, that's great, and you would go nowhere." So
they think just being in the EU is enough to develop a player. And that's just the craziest thing. Just because they're good competition doesn't mean you have the coaching staff to tell them what to do properly. It's all about the coaching staff, and the competition as a whole also helps. But, like, these players, like, honestly, some people have kind of weird, insightful things about how EU works as a whole. Like, you want players to develop. Like, think about this like this. They were saying Perkz should have went to Vitality because he's not going to win in an A, when in reality, and Vitality would not have been better than Cloud9 with Perkz. And that's just what it is. Perkz... Cloud9 as a whole is better than Vitality.
That's the funniest thing. Guys, I don't know what 2018 Vitality showed you, but that's not who they are.
2019.
20, no, it was 20.
Are you talking about going to Worlds?
No, remember how Vitality went to Worlds and they had that.
Oh, you still...
No, like, people think like that is Vitality. No.
The same roster.
No, like, that image of Vitality that people have in their minds for when they were at Worlds 2018, that's not them. Vitality is perennially either the bottom of the league and no one cares about them.
I will say, Cabochard is a good reason to build a team around anybody.
He's gone. They had already, like, Esports Manicos, I think they said he's off.
Well, then there's literally no positives to that team. No, I don't even get that. Is Esports Medical even a confirmed source?
He's like the how do I say this? He's like the Jacob Wolf for EU, essentially.
Well, we'll see.
They're like Jacob Wolf people for EU.
Jacob Wolf literally announces for every region. He's not just for NA.
But no, like, people said, oh yeah, he could just stay in EU because he's not going to win Worlds in NA. Obviously, he's not winning Worlds here, but at least he'll be able to go to Worlds on Cloud9 potentially.
I mean, genuinely, Vitality's genuinely a worse team than Cloud9, and that's
Vitality's always been garbage.
Not always, but like...
But like, literally, 2018, they've always been trash. Just this year, they were trash.
It's like, just because you're on EU doesn't make your team good. It just means you can build a better team around somebody.
Like, what would you rather do? Play for a 10th place org in EU or play for a potentially 3rd place team in A?
First place.
I'm going for that 3rd place team if that's my option.
Third to first place, yeah.
And third or first in NA or 10th in EU. I'd rather just go to NA. And you get more money too. Like, people don't understand, like, it's nothing but a bunch of broke people saying they know better when they don't. It's just a bunch of morons.
I don't want to go out and go aggressive like that. I mean, I think that There are some
But
some
logical thinking,
people
though.
think like, man, you should have some patriotism for your home place, but like at the same time, like
Dude,
I
I am
mean,
being
it's
honest
money.
here.
I would
If
leave
I was if I was a Team Liquid fan, I would not care that there is Koreans representing me.
if I
That
was
literally,
offered $15 million to play for the North Korean national team, I would go there in a second.
you would leave me
I
and go there.
I would leave you for $0. Like I think there's a few things that I want to point. Like I think that there are some positives to being in EU because the competition as a whole is better. But you don't like it's not always going to be enough to be able to develop you just purely based off the competition around you. Obviously, the solo queue environment will be a little bit better, but at the same time, like there are some other aspects as whether or not you're able to actually play well because the competition is as a whole better and your team is genuinely worse than some of the teams in NA. So now you're just not competing at all, and you have somebody who's struggling to even make an impact on a team that's just floundering at this point. Like Perkz would honestly not be able to make Vitality a Worlds contending team. He would not be able
Let's
to
be
make
honest
them
here.
at
He wasn't
Worlds.
considering
It,
Vitality. Like I know people said like Vitality
no,
was in the
he's
running. He wasn't considering.
yeah. I'm
it.
just
Like,
saying Vitality would not have went to Worlds even with Perkz. Vitality would not have been better than Cloud9 would have been with Perkz. Like those are the two things that I think actually are as a whole are undeniable.
like
I
just
think
like looking at his personality over the years, you just know he would never choose Vitality. It's well, I actually think being on a 10th place team is better than being on a first place team. That's ridiculous. That is actually crazy. I don't even know how they make sense in people's brains. Or it's like the money thing too. It's like, yeah, people want to be paid more because these players, people have said they work like all day. So you work all day. So who goes to their job and says, you know what, I want to work all day and make less money? No actual smart person says that. That's actually just you're just broke. Or you don't have a job if you say that.
stop being. You don't have to keep attacking poor people at this point. You're just going.
I'm not.
You're
No,
all
I.
you're
A lot of people
overstressing
like,
that point.
I think it's just a bunch of people who like aren't thinking clearly and are just saying baseless claims without any
Well,
like.
they're
knowledge.
emotional because they honestly are overvaluing their feelings over Perkz, who's directly being affected by these things, and that's just selfish on their part. That's all I'm saying to that. Like, genuinely, Perkz is denied. This is literally life changing amounts of money, and they want him to get rid of it for the chance to be able to maybe make their region as a whole better and not make NA better, and that's just not gonna happen. They're not thinking about you. They're not thinking. They're thinking about their own profitable gains. Some people like Whippo will deny millions of dollars, but that's just childish in my opinion. Honestly, if he'd instantaneously been kicked out of the league because he wasn't good enough, which almost honestly was a thing at some point in time, he would have been not only still as rich as he was before, but he would have been out of a job instead of making millions of dollars and making an actual indent on his future. Because esports as a whole is not a long time thing. And if you don't at least get a streaming career out of it,
I think it is, but the issue here is like
it's not.
if you're getting if you're getting instant money right now, like $2.4 million.
Let's just look at the average career of a player inside the like the esports scene is like 1 to 2 years at the most. Sometimes some makes it to 3, but like at the very least, like that's not a long time. That's not a long time to make money.
Talking about the average person,
It's probably about.
It did. I don't know.
A lot of people come into the league and drop out instantaneously because they're not good enough in their first season. Some people make it to the second season and actually take a downward trajectory in comparison to their first, and they're knocked out with like Death League and all that stuff. Some people don't consistently get to have too many chances to be able to make money. And not taking money, in my opinion, when there's not a lot of time to make it inside of the LCS, when it's such a profitable situation that you put into, is childish. Just because you want to, like, I don't get that. Like, honestly, he gets to choose what he has value on. He might not actually care about being a millionaire and all that stuff, but honestly, like, there's not too many things I wouldn't do for a couple $1 million.
I don't know. This man got offered $2.4 million just so he could play exclusively in EU and make his region better. Obviously, I'm just gonna call bullshit. There's no way you turn down $2.4 million for, like, why do pro players do that? Like, someone that do that, like, you're factoring in other people who could actually care less about you in most situations other than your League of Legends performance. And you're not thinking about yourself.
He's thinking about his enjoyment, and he's weighing it over more worth than millions of dollars. And I don't really know what his financial situation's like to begin with. Maybe $2 million is nothing to him because he's a billionaire. I don't know.
Okay, let's be honest here.
Well, I'm just saying it's a possibility. I'm just saying
most people would have taken the money. Let's be honest here.
I would have taken
2.4 million. He like he didn't even just why would 100 Thieves even offer him that much money after having some days ridiculous? But I don't know. For me, I would personally just take the money, but I don't know. It depends on the next thing, which is Santorin is confirmed to be going to Team Liquid. Santorin joins Team Liquid.
I don't care about that. I've talked about Santorin and Team Liquid a lot. I think that honestly, with the big address, like the big issues that I think that Team Liquid has, we look at them right now. They've actually transitioned their team to a more faster paced team because their ability to play 1-3-1. And I think that with Santorin on the team as a whole, that really doesn't fix anything because he's an objective-oriented jungler, and the only reason he's succeeding as well as he is right now is because dragon stacking is the only way to play the game right now. With the removal of catch-up XP and all that stuff, we saw his playstyle kind of exponentially jump up in value, which is a big reason. But if they ever get rid of dragon stacking as a whole, I think he's going to be worthless. You're relying on a specific meta to stay in meta for him to be able to be valued as high as he is right now. I think that's one of the big reasons I despise the value on Santorin right now, because again, his playstyle specifically is not good inside of more. If the catch-up oriented jungle like XP was good, like as it is right now, which is fine, and then they get like completely changed dragons to where like it's not a win con anymore. He is essentially not as good. He drops down to five places in my opinion in jungle like level. Like he drops 5 positions in jungle if the dragon stacking ceases to be a thing and it starts being an objective thing, and you have to rely on ganking more.
I think that personally, oh God, it's hard to say.
I don't
really think he actually fixes any of their issues. Really, I
think
he
is better than Broxa.
He fixes 2 issues. He fixes being better than Broxa, and he plays towards his mid laner, which is what Jensen wants. And I think that Team Liquid, as they've stated before, they want good mid jungle synergy.
I want to point out this team is specifically designed right now, just based off players, to if you gank for mid laner, like the mid laner as the jungler for this team, you're essentially just trolling at this point. Because not only do you have a high pressure top laner who is going to essentially need you to go counter gank because he's going to be essentially dominating the lane, they're obviously going to have to send people up there. You also have tactical Core JJ, who literally your team has to play around, or Core JJ can't do anything. Jensen has to take the back seat this season because he is essentially the third wheel on this team. He's the third functioning wheel on a team that is designed to not play around him now. And that is one big thing that people are not understanding, is Jensen cannot be ganked for. You cannot focus Jensen ganks because your team is designed to Alphari being allowed to dominate around the lane. It's going to have Jensen roaming around to help his team more so than dominating lane phase now. And that is a big transition that I don't know if Jensen's going to be able to do. Like people are expecting Jensen to be the star on this team, when in reality he's going to be the third biggest point of this team. He's just a strong mid laner who's able to function. He's going to have to take a Nisqy role on this team right now as a backseat, but able to help his team out. Like
I think he took that Nisqy role in.
He has to take it. Like, he's literally did not take it as well. Like, he literally did not play the way Nisqy did. He dominated the laning phase and then was able to transition into kind of early-ish mid-game skirmishes. He does not play like Nisqy. He's not good at transitioning around the map. Like, it's just not one of his strengths. He's like, he dominates lane and takes TP sometimes, or he has really good roaming ability champions. Like, he's not like Caps, who roams around the map effectively constantly. He's not like a showmaker. No, but like
this for Team Liquid always wanted to have mid.
Yes, but that is trash for the team they just built. That is literally, they built a team that has, like, Alphari has to get ganks.
Alphari could play low econ.
He literally can't. That's literally the opposite. You bought the. Okay, let's look at the stats for Alphari right now, because that is just like he
stats.
I'm gonna go for stats because it actually, one of the few times this actually paints exactly what he is. He's first place in first blood victims, but he's also by far and away first place inside of gold differential at 15. And that's what the team that doesn't really, like, I think he's third place in gold differential, but CS differential he's first place in. Gold differential he's not. He's like top 3. In a team that never gets first tower or anything and doesn't really get objectives around the map, he's developing his own gold leads. Like, we look at his first, like, all of these things, jungle proximity, all that stuff is low on their side, and that's the reason they weren't able to win, because teams started focusing him in the top side. If you don't focus Alphari, you lose the game. Alphari is not a good weak side top laner. It's just not in his blood. He's literally a lane-dominant top laner that is going to demand jungle attention, or you're going to lose the game. And if they play around Jensen, the team's done. The team is literally not going to function if they play around Jensen. Because the bot lane needs it even more than Jensen does. Bot lane is the identity of this team. Like, you have to play around Core JJ and Tactical because they are the highest econ. Jensen, you built a team that Jensen really, honestly, is kind of a lost cause at this point. He literally doesn't make sense of this team. That's why I'm still confused as, like, on paper this team is good. But in practice, who knows if it's going to be, because Jensen has to transition his playstyle. Santorin has to transition his playstyle. Like, all of these teams are literally going into a team developed for... They're going into a team developed that for a playstyle that they're not able to play. We'll see if they're able to even do it. I don't know.
Well, we have to see what kind of playstyle they're going to have. That's all we keep.
Well, I'm going based off of players. Like, Alphari has always been lane dominant. Jensen and Core JJ... Core JJ has to be the centralized point of ganks because he is the biggest leading cause. His ability to roam around the map is the reason Team Liquid is so good. Like, you have to have a team that's developed to play around him, and that's just how it's going to have to happen. Like, I don't hate this team at all. I think they have potential, but it all comes down to whether or not Jensen can adapt. And I don't know if it's possible because we've never seen him in this side. We never had to see him as the third point of a team.
Also true. But that's pretty much it. There's kind of nothing else to really point at. What do you think about Nisqy going to Fnatic?
Nisqy going to Fnatic?
I think that's
trash. That is absolutely atrocious.
I think it's a side grade for Nemesis.
It's an upgrade. I think it's an upgrade. At the same time, like, how much of an upgrade is it?
I think Nemesis. Sorry, not bad. Nisqy. I think Nisqy will play better with Selfmade because Nisqy plays better with his junglers.
I agree with that. That's actually that's a good point to make though. That is really a good point. Like, honestly,
why I'm a genius. So you
no. Just think about it. Just the fact that he plays around the jungle so often is really going to expedite how fast. Like, Selfmade is actually. This is a genuinely better team now, and that's just a fact. I think
personally, if Nisqy plays the way around Selfmade like he played around Blabber, and this Selfmade is better than Blabber, they actually are a stronger team. By getting Nisqy, I think Nisqy's playstyle benefits Fnatic more because Nisqy is not a Nemesis was an actual weak side mid laner. I don't know how this even exists. How that's possible is ridiculous.
I mean, eventually there might be a meta where you're able to centralize around engage supports like Galio and all that stuff inside the mid lane, but it doesn't exist right now.
I think getting Nisqy makes them better actually.
It does make them better.
Mid-jungle synergy. I think Nisqy is a lot more aggressive.
Nisqy's a better laner too, actually. So
I think Nisqy is an upgrade.
It's an upgrade. But
I don't know why people said that he fell off in the last summer, so it's like
it's reality, but at the same time his playstyle never shifted. He's still going to benefit this team. I'm just saying
Nemesis also looks pretty bad too.
I'm just saying it's not enough of an upgrade, and that's what people are upset about. Like, they wanted Perkz and they got like Nisqy. Like, you can see why they're a little bit upset about that.
I can see, but it's like, I mean, Nisqy played better than Nemesis mostly.
It's not about being an upgrade. Like, again, when you want to make upgrades, you usually want to make a drastic upgrade to where, like, wow, we're a substantially better team, and it really just kind of the same identity team, but just better at doing it. And honestly, maybe that Nisqy be on the team would have made them be able to beat top esports, but I don't think it would have either.
God, Nisqy beating Knight. Whew, that probably is not gonna happen.
No, I mean, they're not gonna beat each other. He doesn't beat anybody. Like, Nisqy was one of the, like, not even in the top 3 for laning mid laners last year. That's just not how he plays the game. He's like doing B, but just worse. He's a budget doing B. That's what he is.
But Nisqy's not like a little girl in lane. He takes the aggressive trades, and that's what Selfmade. I think Selfmade needs a player like Nisqy. Nisqy's always willing to fight, and that's what I think Selfmade needs in Fnatic right now, because Nemesis, he just kind of wants to sit there and farm like Bjergsen in some aspects, you know. And I think having a player like Nisqy who consistently wants to up the tempo of the pace of the game, I think that's going to make Fnatic better. Now, will it make them first place over G2? Probably not, because Nisqy's biggest competition now is Caps, who he would consistently lose to in EU when he was over there. So that's the problem. But does this make Fnatic better? I think so. But see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. Anything you want to say before we close out? Because tomorrow we'll know where a lot of these players are. More players after these are going. It's gonna be big tomorrow. You guys will be getting a lot of videos tomorrow after the off-season news starts pouring in.
Yeah, I mean, there is gonna be a lot of people upset that we got a little bit argumentative towards like the beginning of the Caps thing, but again, I don't think it's that big a deal. I'm pretty happy. I think we addressed most of the problems that I think exist inside of the EU system right now. So,
do you feel like I wrecked you with my logic?
You didn't even talk about my point, which upset me. Like, you kind of just kept not talking to me.
I try to bridge it together with one thing, but I didn't think you were getting it, so I was like,
I got 100% what you were saying. It just really didn't correlate to my point.
Yo, it's the Nightwing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video that you guys just watched, and if you did enjoy it, make sure you leave a like and a comment down below, and if you never want to miss out on a single upload, make sure you hit the notification bell, that way you get notified whenever I post a video. Thank you guys for the continued support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.